Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Long ago, many people did not know about the land of Britain. For the great Roman Empire, it was just a story. This changed when the Roman leader, Julius Caesar, visited the island in the year 55 BC. He came with his soldiers, but he did not stay for long. To understand the history of this interesting land, we must go back to the very beginning. The story of Britain starts in a very old time, many thousands of years ago. This was the Paleolithic period, or the Stone Age. The first people arrived in Britain from Europe. These people were hunter-gatherers. This means they hunted animals for meat and gathered plants and fruits to eat. They hunted large animals like wild cattle. Life was difficult, and they had to protect themselves from dangerous animals like bears and wolves. These early people were clever. They made tools to help them live. They used stones and wood to make simple hand axes and spears. These tools helped them hunt and prepare their food. It is rare to find very old wooden tools today, but many stone tools have been found. They show us how people lived a long time ago. In this ancient time, Britain was not an island. It was connected to the rest of Europe by land. People and animals could walk from mainland Europe to Britain. There was no sea between them. But the world was changing. There was a long, very cold period called the Ice Age. Ice covered much of the land, and life was a great challenge. When the Ice Age ended, the weather became warmer. The giant sheets of ice started to melt. This made the water in the seas rise higher and higher. Slowly, the water covered the land that connected Britain to Europe. Britain became the island we know today. The people living there were now separated from the mainland. Their special history as an island nation had begun. 2. Early people. After the cold Ice Age, the weather in Britain became warmer. Life started to change for the people who lived there. This time is called the Mesolithic period. The large animals like mammoths were gone, so people hunted smaller animals like deer. They did not live in one place all year. Instead, they moved with the seasons. They had summer camps and winter camps. This was a smart way to live. When they stayed in one place, they used the food and wood from the area. When they moved, it gave nature time to grow back. Many people lived near the coast in the summer. They learned to catch fish and find shellfish to eat. They made new kinds of tools to help them hunt in the water. Around 4100 BC, a very big change happened. People learned how to farm. This was the start of the Neolithic period. They learned new ideas from people who came from the East. With more people to feed, hunting was not enough. So they began to clear forests to make fields. They used flint tools with wooden handles to cut down trees. They grew crops like barley and kept animals like pigs and cattle for meat and milk. For the first time, people had a reliable source of food. They did not have to move anymore. People started to build the first permanent settlements and lived in long wooden houses. They also built special places to bury their dead. This period is famous for its large stone monuments. The most famous one is Stonehenge. These huge stone circles were probably used for important rituals, or to watch the sun and stars. They were not built for fighting. The next big change was metal. Around 2200 BC, people learned how to make bronze. This was the beginning of the Bronze Age. Bronze is made by mixing copper and tin together. It was much harder than stone and could be shaped into new things. People heated the metal until it was liquid and poured it into molds. They made better tools and new kinds of weapons, like daggers and axes. Later, they made the first swords. These new weapons show that life was changing. There was more fighting between different groups. Powerful families and leaders started to own land. They put up fences to show which land was theirs. Society was becoming more organized, with some people becoming richer than others. After the Bronze Age came the Iron Age. Iron was even stronger than bronze, and it was easier to find. This meant more people could have strong tools and weapons. Iron tools helped them farm better and grow more food. During this time, groups of people called the Celts became powerful in Britain. The Celts were not one group, but many different tribes. They shared a similar language and culture. They were skilled artists who made beautiful jewelry. They were also good fighters and farmers. To protect themselves, they built large hill forts. These were settlements on top of hills with high walls made of earth and wood. These Celtic tribes controlled most of Britain when the Romans started to become interested in the island. 3. The Romans arrive. Almost 100 years after Julius Caesar tried and failed to control Britain, the Roman Empire returned. This time, they were successful. In the year 43 AD, the Roman Emperor Claudius sent a large army across the sea. 4 legions, led by a general named Aulus Plautius, arrived on the coast of Kent. Emperor Claudius himself only stayed on the island for 16 days. But when he went back to Rome, people called him a hero. The Roman army was strong and quickly took control of southern Britain. They moved north and west, taking more land from the Celtic tribes. By the year 60 AD, much of Wales was also under Roman control. The Romans started to build new cities. One of these cities was Londinium, which grew to become the capital for the Romans in Britain. Today, we know this city as London. But not all British people accepted Roman rule. Many tribes tried to fight back. The most famous resistance was led by a queen named Boudica. She was the queen of the Iceni tribe. Her husband was an ally of Rome. When he died, he left half of his kingdom to the Romans and half to his wife. But the Romans were not happy with this. They wanted everything. They took all the land and treated Boudica and her daughters very badly. Boudica was very angry. She gathered a large army of Britons and attacked the Romans. Her army marched to Londinium and other Roman towns. They burned the towns to the ground and killed about 70,000 Romans and their supporters. For a short time, it looked like Boudica might push the Romans out of Britain. However, the Roman governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, was a very good general. His smaller, well-trained army met Boudica's forces and defeated them in a great battle. It is believed that Boudica drank poison to kill herself so she would not be captured by the Romans. After Boudica's defeat, the Romans made their control of Britain stronger. Over time, many Britons started to live like Romans. The Romans rebuilt the towns that Boudica had burned, including London. They built long, straight roads that connected their cities and forts. This made it easier for their soldiers to travel and for people to trade goods. They also built amphitheaters for entertainment and public baths. They introduced Roman laws and taxes. Farming and mining improved, and Britain became a rich part of the Roman Empire. To make it easier to govern the large island, the Romans later divided Britain into smaller parts, called provinces. First, they split it into 2, and later into 4. But the Roman Empire could not last forever. For many years, they had to defend Britain from attacks by other groups. The Picts from Scotland and the Scots from Ireland attacked from the north and west. The Saxons from Germany attacked the coasts. By the end of the 4th century, the whole Roman Empire was getting weaker. It had many problems, and it was too big to control. The last Roman soldiers left Britain around the year 410 AD. The Roman leaders sent a message to the people of Britain. The message said they now had to defend themselves. After almost 400 years, Roman rule in Britain was over. 4. The Viking Age. After the Romans left, new enemies arrived in Britain from across the sea. Around the year 793, people came from Scandinavia in longboats. These people were called Norse people, or Vikings. At first, they did not come to live. They came to attack towns near the sea. They stole gold and other treasures from Christian monasteries and small villages. This was the beginning of the Viking Age in Britain, which lasted for almost 300 years. For many years, the Vikings only came to raid and then go home. But later, they decided they wanted to stay and control the land. In the year 865, a very large group of Viking warriors arrived. This army was called the Great Heathen Army. Their plan was not just to steal, but to conquer all of England. They moved across the country and quickly took control of 3 of the 4 English kingdoms. Soon, only one kingdom was left free from Viking rule. This kingdom was called Wessex. The king of Wessex was a man named Alfred. He is now known as Alfred the Great because he fought hard against the Vikings. In the year 878, Alfred's army fought the main Viking army at the Battle of Edington. Alfred won the battle. After this victory, King Alfred and the Viking leader Guthrum made an agreement. The Vikings had to leave Wessex. A line was made across England. The Vikings controlled the land in the north and east, and the English controlled the south and west. The area of England that the Vikings controlled was called the Danelaw. In this area, Viking laws and customs were very important. For almost a century, the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons lived next to each other. They traded goods, worked together, and sometimes married. Because they lived together, the Viking language changed the English language. Many English words we use today come from Old Norse, the Viking language. For example, sky, egg, husband, and law are all words from the Vikings. The name for the day Thursday comes from Thor's Day, named after the powerful Viking god of thunder. But the peace did not last forever. The English kings wanted their land back. Over many years, English armies slowly pushed the Vikings back and took control of the Danelaw. In the year 954, the last Viking king in the north of England, Eric Bloodaxe, was forced to leave. Even after this, some Vikings tried to return and rule again. For a short time, England even had Danish kings. The Viking Age in England finally ended in the year 1066. A new king of Norway, Harald Hardrada, brought a huge Viking army to invade England. But the English army defeated them at a famous fight called the Battle of Stamford Bridge. After this battle, the Vikings never tried to conquer England again. 5. Kings and castles. The year 1066 was a very important year in British history. A man from Normandy in France, called William, arrived with his army. He fought the English king at the Battle of Hastings and won. After the battle, he became the new king of England. People called him William the Conqueror. To control the country, William built many strong castles. Before this, castles were often made of wood. The Normans built large stone castles across England and Wales. Famous castles like the Tower of London were started during this time. These castles showed everyone the power of the new Norman kings and helped them defend their land. William the Conqueror also brought a new way of life to England called the feudal system. This system changed who owned the land. The king now owned all the land in the country. He gave large parts of it to his most loyal lords and nobles. In return, these lords had to provide soldiers for the king's army. The English people who owned land before the Normans arrived lost it. They became peasants, poor farmers who had to work on the land for the new lords. They had very difficult lives and had to give most of what they grew to their lord. More than 100 years later, a king named John was on the throne. King John was not a popular ruler. He was known for being cruel and greedy. He made people pay very high taxes to get money for his wars in France, but he often lost these wars. The powerful lords became very angry with King John. They decided to stand up to him. In the year 1215, they forced King John to sign a special document called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was a list of rules that the king had to follow. It said that even the king was not above the law, and that people had certain rights. This was a very important moment, And some ideas from the Magna Carta are still used in laws today. 100 years after the Magna Carta, a terrible event happened. A disease called the Black Plague arrived in Britain. It spread very quickly and was deadly. In just a few years, from 1347 to 1350, the plague killed almost half the people in the country. Entire villages were left empty because so many people died. This disaster changed society. With fewer people, there were not enough workers for the farms. The peasants who survived could demand more money and better conditions for their work. Some peasants even became rich enough to buy their own land. During the 15th century, another major conflict started in England. This was a civil war called the War of the Roses. Two important families, the House of Lancaster and the House of York, fought for control of the English throne. The war lasted for 30 years, from 1455 to 1485. Both families believed they had the right to rule the country. The war finally ended at the Battle of Bosworth Field. King Richard III from the House of York was killed in the battle. A man named Henry Tudor from the Lancaster side became King Henry VII. To bring peace to England, he married Elizabeth of York, joining the two families together. This marriage ended the War of the Roses and started a new period in English history, the Age of the Tudors. 6. The Tudor Family. The Tudor period began in 1485 when Henry Tudor became King Henry VII. He won the last battle of the War of the Roses. To bring peace to England, he married Elizabeth of York. This marriage joined the two families that had been fighting for many years. The Tudor family ruled England for 118 years, and there were 5 Tudor monarchs. They are some of the most famous kings and queens in English history. After Henry VII, his son became King Henry VIII. He wanted a son to rule after him, but his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, only gave him a daughter. Henry wanted to end his marriage, but the Catholic Church did not allow it. So Henry made a very big change. He broke away from the Catholic Church and created a new one, the Church of England. As the head of this church, he could make his own rules. This allowed him to end his marriage to Catherine. Henry VIII married 6 times to try to have a son. He finally had one boy, Edward, and 2 daughters, Mary and Elizabeth. When Henry died, his young son became King Edward VI. Edward was a Protestant, following the new Church of England. But his rule was very short because he died just a few years later. Edward's death caused chaos. His older half-sister, Mary, was a strong Catholic. She believed she was the next rightful ruler. However, Edward had chosen his Protestant cousin, Lady Jane Grey, to be queen. Lady Jane ruled for only 9 days. Mary came to London with her supporters, took the throne, and later executed Jane. Queen Mary I tried to force England to become a Catholic country again. She punished Protestants very harshly. Around 300 people were burned to death for their religious beliefs, which gave her the name Bloody Mary. When Mary died, her Protestant half-sister, Elizabeth, took the throne. Her long rule, from 1558 to 1603, is often called the Golden Age. Queen Elizabeth I was intelligent, popular, and a strong leader. She never married and was known as the Virgin Queen. When she died, the Tudor period ended. During the Tudor years, life in England changed. Most people still worked on farms, but trade and mining for coal and iron grew. This made the country richer, but poverty was still a big problem for many people. New laws were made to help the poor. Punishments for criminals were often physical and public. People were whipped or put in stocks for small crimes. Serious crimes like murder led to execution. Education became more important, but mostly for boys from rich families. Girls were usually taught skills for the home, like cooking and sewing. People also started to enjoy more leisure activities, like playing tennis and football or watching jousting. 7. A New Britain. After Queen Elizabeth I died in 1603, the Tudor period ended. A new time began with the Stuart family. The new king was James VI of Scotland. In England, he became King James I. For the first time, England and Scotland had the same king. This brought peace between the two countries that had often fought in the past. But not everyone was happy. In 1605, a group of Catholics made a secret plan. A man named Guy Fawkes was one of the leaders. They put gunpowder under the Houses of Parliament. They planned to blow up the building when the king was inside. The plan was discovered on November 5th. Guy Fawkes and the other men were caught and executed. Today, people in Britain remember this day every year with fireworks. It is called Bonfire Night. After James died, his son Charles I became king in 1625. King Charles believed he should have all the power. He often disagreed with Parliament about money and power. He needed money, but Parliament refused to give it to him. So, King Charles closed Parliament and ruled alone for 11 years. This made many people angry. In 1642, a civil war started. The country was divided between supporters of the king and supporters of Parliament. Oliver Cromwell led Parliament's army. After years of fighting, Parliament won. King Charles I was captured and put on trial for treason. In 1649, he was executed. This shocked Britain and Europe. It was the first time a king was killed by his own people. For the next 11 years, England did not have a king. It was called a Commonwealth. Oliver Cromwell ruled the country as the Lord Protector. He was a strong leader and used his army to keep control. After he died, people decided they wanted a king again. In 1660, the son of the executed king returned. He was crowned King Charles II. This is called the Restoration because the monarchy was restored. His rule saw big disasters, including the Great Plague in 1665 and the Great Fire of London in 1666. After other Stuart rulers, Queen Anne signed the Act of Union in 1707. This act officially joined the kingdoms of England and Scotland. Together, they became the new country of Great Britain. The 18th century brought huge changes to Great Britain. This period is called the Industrial Revolution. Before this time, most things were made slowly by hand in people's homes or small workshops. But new ideas and inventions changed everything. The most important new power source was steam. The steam engine could power big machines. This meant goods could be made much faster in large buildings called factories. Factories appeared all over the country. Many people left their farms and moved to the growing towns and cities to find work. Coal was needed to power the steam engines, so mining became a very important industry. To move all the coal and factory goods, a network of canals was built. Barges on the canals could carry heavy things easily. Roads were also improved, which made travel by coach much faster. Life was very hard for the new factory and mine workers. The work was noisy and dangerous. The machines were fast and had no safety guards, so accidents were common. People worked for very long hours for very little money. The conditions were especially terrible for children. Children were often hired because they were small and could be paid less than adults. Their small hands could reach into machines to fix parts. Many children worked deep in the dark coal mines, pulling heavy carts. For most ordinary people, this time of great change was also a time of great difficulty. 8. The modern UK. The Victorian era began in 1837 when Queen Victoria became queen. During her long rule, Britain changed a lot. Because of the Industrial Revolution, there were many new factories and machines. People moved from the countryside to big cities like London and Manchester to find work. Life in the new cities was often crowded and difficult for poor people. But there were also many exciting new inventions, like the first trains, photographs, and telephones. These things started to change how people lived. During this time, Britain became very rich and powerful. The British Empire grew and became the largest in the world. It had countries in Africa, Asia, and many other places. People said that the sun never set on the British Empire because it was so big. In the 20th century, Britain fought in two very big wars. The First World War started in 1914, and the Second World War started in 1939. These wars were terrible, and millions of soldiers and civilians died. While men went to fight, women took their jobs. They worked in factories to make weapons and on farms to grow food. Everyone in Britain had to help the country. Life was very difficult for all people. After the Second World War ended in 1945, Britain needed to rebuild. Many cities had been damaged by bombs. The government wanted to make life better for ordinary people. In 1948, they created the National Health Service, or NHS. This was a very important new system. It meant that everyone in Britain could get free health care from a doctor or hospital when they were sick. The NHS is still a very important part of life in the UK today. Britain also needed more workers, so people were invited from countries in the old empire, like Jamaica and India. They helped to rebuild the country and brought their own cultures with them. The wars also changed the British Empire. Many countries in the empire wanted to be free and rule themselves. In 1947, India became an independent country. This was the start of the end for the empire. Over the next few decades, many other countries in Africa and Asia also became independent. The British Empire became much smaller. In 1952, a new queen came to the throne, Queen Elizabeth II. She was queen for over 70 years, longer than any other British king or queen. Her time as queen saw many changes. In the 1960s, British culture became famous around the world. There was new music from bands like the Beatles, and new fashion from London. This time was called the Swinging 60s. Life became more free for many people, especially the young. New laws were made about divorce and personal freedom. The end of the 20th century and the start of the 21st century brought more changes. Britain joined a group of European countries to make trade easier. But in 2016, the British people voted to leave. This was called Brexit. In 2022, Queen Elizabeth II died, and her son became King Charles III. Today, the United Kingdom is a modern country with people from all over the world. It is still an important country, but its place in the world is very different from the time of the British Empire. Its long history has shaped the country we see today. What do you think is the most important event in modern British history?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.